now I can say, this is how we walk the walk. I have to tell you, these next two folks coming up, Tina Jefferson, Regional Administrator at DCF of Region 6, and Victor Incerti, Chief Program Officer at CMHA. You have their bios, but what I want to tell you about them is that this is rubber meets the road. This is what this looks like on the ground. This is what I call true implementation and true leadership in this work. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Tina Jefferson and Victor Incerti.
Wow. I am so very pleased to be before you this morning with Victor to share with you a little bit about our journey and how we got here. But before I start, I have to thank my Region 6 staff, specifically any members of my racial justice work group that helped us to do this work. And I know some of you are here. I know Nedra's somewhere in the room. Hi, Nedra. So like I said, I'm just pleased to be before you to share a bit about our journey. Come here, Victor. We're in this together, right?
Sure.
So here's here's some concrete examples of our journey in my region and how we moved from talk to action. So we started deliberately with the work with establishing a racial justice work group. We still deal with all the isms. We still do a lot of work with our diversity action teams, work we are very proud of. We celebrate diversity in all ways. But we were deliberate about the need for a racial justice work group to focus on our racial justice work in moving disproportionality and disparity. We partnered with local and national leaders like Jen. We brought several learning forums to our staff. We held learning forums regarding the color of justice. We held learning forums regarding global stress and race relations. We had courageous conversations with our team at every level, just giving them the opportunity to talk through and just acknowledge the fact that we don't have all the answers. We don't always know how to talk to families about race. We don't always know how to talk to each other about race. And so we had to give them safe space to be able to have those conversations. We explored our own implicit bias. We all have it. It doesn't matter as an African American woman. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, and where you come from. And we held exercises like the Walk of Privilege to help people understand and see and express how that might feel for them. We provided our staff with racial justice questions that they can consider during supervision as well as in the field with their families. We started off, a little light with things like, well, how do you celebrate holidays? But we moved to the work. We moved to something a lot deeper with questions, when we're thinking about placement decisions and really helping staff to understand what are the racial and cultural considerations that might be preventing us from achieving timely permanency for a child, or that might help us achieve timely permanency for a child if we really pay attention. We shared disproportionality and disparity data with anybody that would listen, with our staff, with our community providers at network of care meetings. If you wanted it, we were vulnerable and we shared it. We didn't say that we had all the answers, but we definitely shared where we were on our journey, and we acknowledged where we wanted to go. We led, so moving forward to this year, I held a leadership retreat, and I called my friend Jen, and I said, Jen, I need help. I know where I'm trying to go. I know what I'm trying to do. I know that, we have, as Jen would say, tilled the soil, and we've had all of these conversations, but my staff keep telling me, Tina, I need your help with understanding, how do I actually make this happen when I'm actually in front of that family? I share the values, I understand in theory, but help me with how do we make this happen? And, we started having a conversation about creating safe spaces. We started having a conversation about safety culture, and we decided to provide a learning forum for staff where we really talked about intersectionality and the intersectionality between safety culture and racial justice and how you couldn't have one without the other. I'm not saying we arrived anywhere, but we definitely continued, we put people on the journey of understanding, introducing, and having conversations about what does it mean to create a safe space? What does it mean to have a safe culture and a safe environment for your staff to be willing and vulnerable enough to come to you and tell you that this is a conversation that they're struggling with, or this dad looks different from them and therefore instill some sort of fear in them when they decide to go out in the field to work with him. And moving toward the summer, I think April-ish, April is when we created the video. I'm looking at Victor because in 2017, I neglected to say, we recognize the need to bring our partners in to our racial justice work group. So we're having all of these conversations internally around, what should we do? What should it look like? What skills, what tools should we put in the toolbox of our staff? And we recognized that we couldn't have those conversations alone. So our partners came and joined with us, providers, RAC members, and after that leadership retreat with Jen, that was, it was really insightful to hear from our staff and for them to give us feedback around, this really was helpful, but we want a little bit more. So together, we started talking about, okay, what can we do next? And that's when we came up with the idea for the video. But before we show you the video, I want you to hear from Victor. I want you to hear about his agency's journey and about the collaboration with Region 6.
Well, thank you, Tina. And thank you for inviting me here today. I would like to start out first by acknowledging what an incredible champion with a focus that's intentional on the concept of disparity and racial justice in the person of Tina Jefferson. Then I would like to let you know that I'm here not because I'm any type of expert in this area or that I have any particular words of wisdom to impart upon you, but because I was invited. And that leads me to the mantra that I would like to leave you with today, which has developed for me since about 2015 in the expression, just say yes. As a result of that, I have been on this journey, and we use a lot of metaphors in our discussions around what this journey is and how it feels, from hopping on a speeding train to flying with a flock of seagulls. But it really kind of comes back to the concept of teamwork. And as a DCF grant-funded provider in the community, it really felt to me like a privilege to be asked to join on this journey. That first happened actually prior to Tina's invitation to me to join the Racial Justice Work Group in Region 6, when DCF launched learning collaboratives called Connect to Class, which we were, in my organization, in the first cohort of community providers to have our eyes opened, have our missions focused on the concept of providing service to people regardless of culture, race, religion, language, sexual orientation, or gender identity. It helped me to bring back to my agency in participating in that. Changes in our policies, changes in our then existing cultural diversity plan, which today it looks more like a health equity implementation plan, incorporating all the class standards into the mission of the organization and our promotion of equity to all of the clients we serve. And also promoting that awareness up and down the chain of the organization. I learned so much as I have sat in on these racial justice work group meetings and have been really inspired. It's truly amazing. Some of the risks that people on that committee have taken in not only promoting this cause, but in sharing their own personal stories around disparity, around being treated with less regard than most other people. And I really came to believe that it has to be my mission to promote that concept in the organization I work in. And I have to tell you, I didn't do it by myself. You know, as I look around this room and I see some very familiar faces who have helped me along that journey, which would not have been possible without their help and support, who joined with me on that train ride, who continue to work with me. Some have left to go on to other endeavors, but clearly it was a teamwork effort. I don't know where the journey will lead. But subsequent to awakening to this process and being invited onto the work group and being part of the development of this most wonderful video that you'll be seeing today, I'm ready for the ride. I don't know, what will be next for me in terms of who will approach me to say, will you join us on this committee, or will you help in this work group, or will you speak at a summit? Goodness. All I know is that I will say yes. I will just say yes. And I can't be thankful enough for that opportunity. It's helped me to really transform my experience as well as my understanding and true belief in the mission of DCF, in partnering with them to provide services to our families and children. And I'm looking forward to how that will unfold in the future. So the one thing I really would love to leave you with, the one thing out of anything that I've shared with you today, is just say yes. Thank you very much.
I looked over at Jody and Jen and I said, who's working the screen here? Because I'm ready to show you the video. I'd love for you to see some of my staff. You are about to see about 7 members of Region 6, one of which is in the room. Hi, Lisa. I had to embarrass you, right? The New Britain and Meriden offices represent Region 6. Sorry. Thanks for that reminder. So we're ready.
So there's nothing I need to say about that. What we do want is we want you to say something. So the neighbors that you met so warmly and engaged this morning, the people sitting to your right and left, look back, look at each other, and share. You don't have to if you don't want to look at each other, but it's better if you make eye contact and share what's going on in your head when you watch that. What happened? Was it in your head? Was it in your heart? What did you hear? What did you feel? These are short conversations, but share with each other. Take a moment. A little bit. What were you talking about? That great volume that just happened in this room. Someone be gracious and share little nuggets, little gems, little reflections about What were those? Oh, we've got it right in the middle, of course, right? We've got microphones coming.
Particularly the first few people seemed to me to be very hurt about their experiences. They were very emotional and seemed very sensitive. We talked about how particularly American society, U.S. society, it's a very, we're feeling some kind of way about being told you're racially profiling me, or, I thought being colorblind was the right thing to do. We're very sensitive about that. So I noticed, particularly the first two, that Ms. DeLeo seemed very, she was hurt. And I noticed in the others, less so than some of the others, but people seem very sensitive about this. It's difficult.
Which I not only appreciate that, I'm going to do my Jen provocative thing, which is to say that I noticed two examples you gave were in fact two of the appearing white women. And there's a term called white fragility about this sort of insecurity, this discomfort that being the dominant culture in this country has with being told that we're doing something not quite right. Right. Racism of the well-intended.
Proud and happy to be racist or biased, or people exist, but for the most part,
Yeah.
we feel very like,
Not me. Right.
I was raised to be taught that I don't see color, and now I feel attacked and vulnerable, and yes,
Beautiful. And we want to stay in it. That's where we want to stay today. So thank you for taking us right there. Microphone right here.
I saw, I don't think I need a microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Then I'll talk into the mic very loudly then. I saw some of the same thing, but I also saw it in the African-American young lady who was surprised that the Latino community, who probably shared some or parallel experiences she has shared, considered her to be biased and racist. I've had that same experience myself. I think it's a human condition, because when we talk about racial justice, and I don't want to be the one that says, because I believe in the statement Black Lives Matter. I think that is poignant, and I think it applies to the work that we do. Just as I think the title racial justice applies, but it makes me consider the human aspect of it, and human justice is what we're really talking about. But I said I would say something about this summit, and as soon as I walked in, I saw scones on the table, and I said, "This is about racial justice, right? What happened? What happened to the grits and fish, or chicken and waffles?" So it leads me to ask you, what's for lunch?
I want to say that we have to recognize that we're all different colors. We're not just one color. And when we look at just color, and then we look apart from the color, we look the district that we come from, or the disparity that we come from, and we judge the color by the disparity, and the disparity by the color, and we're not looking at the bigger picture, which is the family, the culture, and the customs and the language, so, but unfortunately, I give you an example, when the Black Panthers, and I was in the Freddie Fixer Parade in New Haven. I grew up in New Haven, and every time the Freddie Fixer Parade, I was not in it. And I was in the drill team. I was the only white face. But I'm Puerto Rican. Okay, so it's like I grew up in the neighborhood, and I didn't even know my own people very well, because I didn't see too much of my own people, because I was always in the midst of color, which of course I don't put white. I'm not white, I'm Indian from Puerto Rico, we're Indians. We're tropical Indians, and we have color, and we have charcoal black, we have chocolate, we have tan, we have a little red, maybe, I don't know, Indian colors, and we have all colors, and we have white, like me. You know what I'm saying? I had two sons. One was dark-skinned, looked like Indian, and the other one was white-skinned like me. So I called them salt and pepper. Hello.
Lisa's comment about wanting to or thinking that it was right to be colourblind stuck with me the most. So I come from outside of America. I come from Australia with its own long history of racism. And coming into America, I thought the right thing to do was to be colourblind, but the more time I've spent here, immersed in the culture here, I'm coming to my own conclusion, similar to Lisa, about the importance of understanding context as well as race, and understanding that race is very different for different communities and it's experienced differently. That has struck me coming from outside into America, how different people's experiences are of race and intersectionality. So very interesting for me coming from a very different country in.
Oh, thank you for sharing. It'll be interesting to hear your perspective. We can clap, sure. Yeah, thank you.
What I liked about the film was when it was said during the film that you have to allow people to tell their truth, stand in their truth, validate their experience. It might not be yours, but the fact that people are aware that you have to validate somebody else's experience because it's their own and it's their journey, then I thought that was good, that awareness, because that's what we need to do.
Which is exactly what you just pointed out was, in some ways, I'm going to talk about that just for a second, but that's exactly the point, right? We don't want to spend all our time as providers trying to get people to understand what we're trying to tell them. We need to do a better job understanding them, right? All right, your last comment before.
Hi. For me, the video gave me an aha moment in terms of the work that we're doing internally at our organization, where I felt, it gave me more of a feeling, right? Where I felt that we have crossed over to the point where we feel that we are diverse, right? We have cultural diversity. But the feeling I had was that I don't think we create opportunities to really allow each other to talk about what is that experience for you and let us discuss it together. So the video really gave me more of a aha to bring back, and in discussing it with my neighbor, it was more of bringing or thinking of particular examples that I could feel as I was watching the video, or I could remember as I was watching the video, that we don't have a lot of, and that I myself was a part of, and I didn't see myself creating the opportunity for the conversation to say, yes, this was my experience, but let me help you, or let me understand yours, and see where we can work together.
Some of the things Jody mentioned in your folder this morning are actual tools that have been used by Tina, by Vanessa, by teams across the state to do exactly what you described. The first one is this Who I Am poem, where if you look at it, it's almost like a Mad Lib for people who did those in the 70s. The front is sort of instructions, the back is a poem, and it's a way that we've used in Connecticut so that people can get to know each other, the real deep who. Who are you? Who am I? I am from. And it's a tool that we give to you, we share willingly. Feel free to adjust it as you need to. We also, as Tina alluded to, and as you talked about just now, how do you get people engaged? We never do this work without letting people give themselves permission to enter the conversation, right? Be gracious to myself, be gracious to others, speak your truth, be kind, right? And with that goes the group agreements. So as Tina mentioned, the psychological safety, right? How do you create spaces that feel safe and brave, people can speak? But make sure that you've got common agreement about what that looks like, and assess yourself. Make sure you're ready to enter, because there's no reason to enter if you're not willing to be real. And then the commissioner noted this earlier, but I'm going to go back to Susan, which is this continued focus on outcomes, which is it doesn't matter if we all talk till we're blue in the face. At the end of the day, the goal is to affect social justice, right? It's human equity. And if we don't start to see that in our data, right, then we can leave feeling as good as we want, but we're not doing what we set out to do. As you go off, I want to leave you with this crazy fun graphic that some friends of mine at the Boston Public Health Commission created, because this also goes to some of this conversation. And we want you to think about this as you go off to break, because the first thing that's going to happen at exactly 11 o'clock when you come back in this room is you are going to have the privilege of listening to young people and their experiences, the real experts. And as you listen to them, we want you to have 4 frames in your mind, right? The one we always think about is this sort of interpersonal stuff, like what happens when you think I say something and I say something, and we don't, we can't make that. We think about that as racism, right? We don't always think about our internalized stuff. The fact that I might feel a certain way because of how I grew up, and it might be inferiority, it might be superiority. I might not be aware of it, but I need to check it. For all of us, we work in these institutions. And what happens when policies are made from a dominant culture that replicate the racism? From DCF's perspective, the example I gave, if people of color made the laws, made the rules, made the policies, my guess is that that thing we call kinship care would actually be intact families, right? Intact services, right? Dominant culture policy calls that foster care. Right? So that's institutionalized racism, right? That's what we need to get together to start breaking down. And then the structural stuff, all of us together in this room. All of us together. The way we talk about families, the way we talk about communities, the way our systems interact. So when you come back after eating your scones, when you come back at 11 o'clock ready to listen to these young people, think about what fits. Because at the end of the day, we want you to commit to action on all of these levels. So enjoy your 15-minute break.
And
sorry.
And enjoy your imaginary grits.
If you chew real slowly, the scones could get there.